So for me, I thought about this question a lot because I'm always asking people. But I think what matters to me if something being a tale of our time is not necessarily like the time that it was written, but its ability to speak to us on many different levels in any time period. Like, and the ability to still be relevant, even if the time period that it's written in is something that's irrelevant to us. I think that's what makes something a tale of our time. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Time. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle books, movies, comics, and more. Where there's a story, there's a reason to read.
And today, I am your guest host, Sharon Lin, because joining me today is my guest, Amanda Stevens.
Woo!
So would you like to briefly introduce yourself, even though I'm sure listeners know you already, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Yeah, so surprise episode because I've been wanting to do this for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Amanda Stevens. I'm here every week. Some things you probably know about me. I did study writing, and I really like having conversations with people. This kind of podcast is actually based off of what myself, my friends, and also like my family and I would do growing up. Is like just discussing things we liked about movies, like why we thought it was good, arguing over like the value of it. And so the ability to do this is really like fun for me.
Yeah, I can really tell because the vibe of the show is really natural. I can tell you do this on a daily basis. So this is one of my favorite shows at RTI, listeners. Hope it's also yours. Okay, so what story have you brought for us today?
So today I asked Sharon to come in because I really wanted to talk about a short run animated series called Over the Garden Wall. That one is from 2014. It is by Patrick McHale, who some people might know his other works. He worked for a short period of time on Adventure Time.
Oh, okay.
And also on The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack.
So haven't watched that.
Yeah. There are two other animated series from around the time. If you look at the animation style, you can kind of see the influence between the three of them. Mm-hmm. But this one was like fully his vision. The other ones he was working with other people.
Okay. Then how about let's try to have a 2-minute summary.
It's
about the story. I know it's gonna be hard.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be longer than 2 minutes, listeners. This is where I finally get a taste of my own medicine.
Yeah. So tell us about Over the Garden Wall.
Yeah. So okay. Now Over the Garden Wall is a modern fairy tale, and it follows the story of two brothers. One, the older one named Wirt, and a younger one named Greg, as they travel through this mysterious woods that's just called the Unknown. And Greg is a younger boy. He's around 5 to 7, and he's very carefree. He's very naive. And his older brother, Wirt, is maybe like between 15 and 16. He's a total worrywart. He loves to create poetry, and he's kind of ruled by like his own lack of confidence. So these two are lost in the woods, and it starts with them wandering through the woods. Wirt is wearing a wizard costume. Greg has a teapot on his head and he's just caught a frog. And that's where we start. There's no explanation. So the two of them are trying to get home and they encounter a woodsman. And he's kind of creepy, but he offers to help them out and he takes them back to his oil mill. And they decide to stay with him, but just as they're getting comfortable, they are attacked by a creature that they think is the beast they keep hearing the woodsman talking about. As they fight it, they accidentally destroy his entire mill. And instead of killing the beast, they squish it in a way that it coughs up something that was making it crazy, and it just turns back into a normal dog. Now, the woodsman does forgive them for destroying his entire home, basically, but he sends them on their way, and he warns them, whatever you do, stay on the path and beware the beast, the real beast. And this kind of sets up the vibe for like the rest of the series, where they encounter things that are not what they seem at face value. And to put this here as well, the beast is kind of a creature who will continue to stalk them throughout the series. And he's kind of equal parts ghost as well as a fearsome critter, if you know what those are. who lures lost, wayward souls off the path and turns them into oil trees.
Wow.
So it's weird. So from there, they encounter a helpful but bossy bluebird whose name is Beatrice, who promises them that if they follow her to someone named Adelaide's house, that mysterious woman can break their curse. And so they go on a whole bunch of misadventures together through the unknown, where they encounter a bunch of things like a town of friendly skeletons that were pumpkins and other weird things, and they grow really close until they finally make it to Adelaide's house. They encounter the woodsman from time to time again, and they're warned to stay on the path and that the beast is just out of sight watching them and waiting for an opportunity to strike. They get to Adelaide's house, and it turns out that Adelaide is a witch, and Beatrice is going to trade the boys in order to turn herself back into a real girl because she was cursed into being a bird. The boys discover her treachery and they help her kill the witch, but that breaks their trust, and then they go their separate ways. They abandon her. After that encounter, Wirt, the older brother, becomes disheartened and he loses hope entirely, letting his little brother just kind of wander off on his own in the woods. In doing so, Greg actually finds a way out of the unknown, but he's told that his older brother can't help him because in giving up hope, he has been claimed by the beast. The little brother offers to trade places with him, and the last thing that Wirt sees is his younger brother walking off with the beast, luring him into the woods. He tries to pursue them, but he falls into a frozen river. Smash cut to the biggest reveal of the series. These are real boys from our real world. And the reason that they're wearing Halloween costumes is because on Halloween Day, they wandered into a graveyard because Wirt, the older brother, wanted to give a cassette of poetry to a girl he had a crush on. And his little brother followed him along, and they got scared off by police. They fall down, and they are basically like in a limbo state right now between life and death. They wake up again, and Wirt has to save his younger brother from the beast in order to get out. And in doing so, he kind of finds his self-confidence again, realizes to kind of think for himself, and he turns the beast down, rescues his brother, and the two of them walk out of the unknown and wake up in the real world. And it's kind of a question of like, did it really happen? Did it not really happen? We're not sure.
Yeah, so why do you care about this story so much?
So for me, I feel like this was a really good like urban fairy tale kind of retelling. And the way that I like to describe the story to people is that it is a story of lost time, and it's all wrapped up in like an Americana style.
What is Americana style?
So if you can imagine kind of like a little bit of a romanticized version of frontier life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like that kind of vibe of like early frontier towns.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Willa Cather's.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Okay.
So like we encounter like a small schoolhouse that's run for animals, but it's very much like what you'd see in like Little House on the Prairie or something. It as a background to like this story that's really about like these different cycles that people are caught in, and some of them are cycles of like poor behavior, bad choices, of like not sticking up for yourself, and kind of just repeating these ideas that continue to play out every time, and the ways in which we allow others to control ourselves, but we need to take back our own control.
Yeah, this when you introduced this to me, I am so drawn to this because I feel like this is kind of like an allegorical story, also rich in metaphor about life. Like you thought you were tackling with, say, this tree, but actually you're talking about something deeper in life. And I really like a story when it gives the audience a hint. And you can make your own relevance to it. I think this story is very rich in that. Yeah,
I think there's a lot in it that is like really up for interpretation, like in terms of how you want to take it. And I guess that's something that kind of also broadens out into like what makes it a tale of our time is I think there's a lot that you can make of your own meaning, even down to the ending. Like it's very much a story that's like, oh, did it happen or did it not really happen? The last scene we have is like they wake up in the ER. Wirt, like he's gotten his confidence back, so he gives his cringy cassette tape to the girl he has a crush on, and his younger brother is telling everybody else in the room the stories from their shared dream that they've had, but he still has a frog that he caught in the unknown, we think, And
The frog is so cute, by the way.
the frog is so weird. They give it a really
So
stupid
cute, yeah.
name. It's a running gag to like give the frog a name. But and then you have these visions of how their time and their experiences shaped the people in the unknown. But we still don't know if that's like a real place. Is that just something that they really shared together? Like how much of that was real? And I think that's a really like, I guess what I should say is it's really hard to make the whole like, oh, it was a dream thing work. But it actually works really well here, mostly because we have the question of whether or not it really was a dream or not.
So how would you describe why should people care about Over the Garden Wall?
First of all, I would say it's a very good set piece for this time.
So let's talk about the aesthetic of the show.
Oh, yeah. Like the animation style is very much like a product of like the late aughts, like early 2010s, like animation.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Vogue style. So I really like that. But like in Vogue style, not actually Vogue style. And then, I would say also the music like has to be touched upon because
yes,
that when I was talking to you earlier, I said the music is like the fourth character here. To so much so that the Beast, the bad guy, they got a professional opera singer to be his voice. So every time that he talks, he has this like deep, low baritone.
It's all tied in a motif.
Yeah.
Well, what kind of style would you describe the music?
A lot of it is folk music and jazz.
Oh, okay.
So you can like pull up the entry song right now, and if I was listening to it this morning, and I realized a lot of like the undertones of like the messages or like, oh, it's all a dream or this is what's going to happen is in the music that's playing in the background if you're paying attention to it. And then it's kind of one of those like, oh, you realize that they were just telling you what was going to happen the whole time.
I love stories like this. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Everything is so well planned out. Like everything is giving you, it's not spoon feeding you anything, but it's giving you little hints of things. And I watched the trailer. So the trailer, I would say the music for the, okay, listeners, highly recommend you check out the trailer because it's a very distinct style and you will understand what I'm trying to describe. And it's music that it's like a classical piano piece for that trailer. So yeah, very distinct style.
Really, really good. Like as a set piece, it's good. I guess to go back and touch on like if I were to say there's a deeper meaning that could be found there, a lot, I think we already said a lot of it is up to interpretation, which is actually a really good thing about this story. I think you get to choose what you think is real or not, but you can read into it a lot deeper in terms of like who you choose to put faith in, as well as kind of an underlying tone of thinking for yourself that goes the entire way through every character that you meet. You find out that even Greg, he's 5 or he's 7, so he never does what anybody tells him to. But that's actually his strength in this like upside down world is that he thinks for himself in everything that he does and he makes his own decisions. While Wirt, who's a teenager, like the rest of us who are teenagers, is like constantly controlled by his own fear of how others are going to perceive him. And that has him like getting into trouble all the time. Even the woodcutter who they encounter is not thinking for himself. He's not worried about how other people think, but he's being manipulated by the Beast to further the Beast's own ends. So a lot of it is kind of like choosing to stand up for yourself, but not in a way that feels like, you know, the cheesy's 80, like stand up for yourself, be your own person. It's like if it were wrapped in a dark fairy tale.
Yeah, I feel like it's very poetic and very open to, you know, each audience creating their own channel to find relevance to each character and the story. And also I'm guessing like the challenges that they would encounter in this story, it's a very real challenge that humans would encounter in life, and some are like personified in a character form. So yeah, I really love how you describe this,
and I think that is something that makes it really powerful even for adults.
And like now, while we're both adults now, but like how would you say if a younger audience, like if a kid wants to get into Over the Garden Wall, what would you say to this younger audience?
I mean honestly, it aired on Cartoon Network.
And we haven't heard.
I know.
Haven't heard that term.
Pour one out for Cartoon Network, y'all, for what it used to be. But you can look at it as the surface level, which is kind of what the whole story is encouraging you not to do, but you totally could. Or you can choose to read into it a little bit deeper and then try and find like your own meaning out of it. And a lot of people have done that. Like there are so many people who have done like video essays, conversations.
Oh, yeah, I do that. Yeah,
you did it too. Yeah. I've seen yours. They're really fun.
Yeah.
But it was people who found like, oh, I want to talk about the nature of control as personified in Over the Garden Wall. I want to talk about
my
like
jam. Yeah,
it's so good, and it still ends up being a feel good thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think that's very wonderful about a story that is really a tale of our time. And I feel like you can, whatever age you are, it grows with you in a way.
Right.
So you can always find relevance to it.
Yeah.
So if you could give Over the Garden Wall a single one phrase subtitle, what would it be?
You know, I ask people this all the time and I tell them to prepare. And I've been trying to prepare for this for myself for the last day and a half. There's power. You know what? This is it. Okay. I've become, now I have the ultimate irony. So Over the Garden Wall, there's power in speaking for yourself. So that's it. I might change my mind later. But for now, as of recording right now, that's what it is.
Wow.
So,
I really like that.
Yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me guest host this episode.
I mean, thank you for guest hosting the episode. I want a quick drop here. Where can listeners find more of you on RTI if they've enjoyed this second kind of like crossover?
You mean of you?
No, you.
Oh.
For you. I guess you here, you hosting my show.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, so listeners out there, I have 2 shows at RTI. One is called Come Along. It's on every Monday. And the other one is That's Debatable on every Wednesday. So you can listen to it on RTI's official website. And they're both on Spotify as well.
Yeah.
You can go to the host page and find my Instagram and also follow RTI English. You can get the links over there.
I love them both. You should definitely check them out. That's Debatable.
Thank
Sometimes
you.
gets me heated at in a good way. So in the meantime, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Sharon, for guest hosting. I really appreciate it. And this has been Tales of Our Time on Radio Taiwan International.
Yes, Radio Taiwan International.
On Radio Taiwan International. We've been discussing the short animated series Over the Garden Wall. There's power in speaking for yourself.
Yes.
A tale of our time. We'll see you next time.